Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are moving on to the next episode in my category breakdown series, and in this video we are taking a look at Best Actress. And as always, if you're new to this channel or new to this series, there is a playlist if you want to watch any of the other episodes. But pretty much all this is just in every single one of these videos, we're taking a look at every individual category at the upcoming Academy Awards. And we're going to talk about, for the example here, the acting. We're just going to talk about each of the actors nominated. We're going to talk about some facts about about them, and then just about their performance in general. And then at the end, I'm going to give you my personal ranking and my prediction for how likely it is that I think they win the Academy Award on March 2nd. And without further ado, let's take a look at the nominees. The first nominee is Cynthia Erivo in Wicked. This is Cynthia Erivo's third Oscar nomination. She was nominated for Best Actress in 2020 for Harriet. She was also nominated in the Best Original Song category that year for Stand Up from Harriet. Cynthia Erivo was nominated at the BAFTAs, the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Golden Globes. So much like I said a couple videos ago in the supporting actress video when I was talking about Ariana Grande, I mentioned there when I was talking about her that I think the first time I saw Wicked, I saw Ariana Grande, I saw her performance, and I thought, yeah, this is fine, that's a fun performance, but I wasn't completely blown away by it. It's the exact same thing with Cynthia Erivo. The first time I watched Wicked, I watched it and left the theater and I was like, you know what, that was a fun, good time. Wasn't necessarily blown away by the whole film. I wasn't, completely just I wasn't as bought in as I think a lot of people. Like the way it swept, the big phenomena that it became, I don't think I was ever at that level or I bought in, especially on the first viewing. On the second viewing, watching it, I'm a little bit more lower still on Wicked than I think a lot of people are, and I'm still a little bit lower on the performances than I think some other people are, but I definitely watched it and I was like, confirmed to me that I'm like, she belongs in this category. And this is maybe a little bit of a spoiler for, for my personal ranking for Cynthia Erivo. But I think looking back at some of these previous years, Cynthia Erivo may be the best, fourth place finisher in a category in a long time. It's there. She just happens to be in a category with three very big, not necessarily the biggest the best acting performances ever, but she's still in with three major contenders that are just clearly ahead of her, at least in the way I view it. There's a lot of people that clearly, if you love Wicked, she very easily can be your number one, and I totally understand how that can be the mindset you have. But for me, though, I think she's kind of finds herself below, a couple of the others that are a little bit of ahead of her. But at the same time, it also feels like she easily could be in winning discussion if, some things had gone a little bit differently, if she had won a couple precursors here and there, or if some of these other performances just didn't take off the way that they did. She is that good in Wicked. And the biggest thing for me is, on the first watch, I will say that while I wasn't necessarily loving a lot of her performance, it wasn't until the Defying Gravity number when I left the theater the first time being like, oh no, okay, yeah, I get it. I get why this is a thing that people are so buzzing about, and I get why this is potentially because at that point we thought that she was one of the front runners, had a great shot at winning the Oscar. Nothing else had really kind of materialized to that point when Wicked first came out. So it's it made sense leaving the theater. Watching it a second time, I was able to appreciate so much about her performance leading up to the Defying Gravity number, but it still is. That is such a beautiful and excellent decision to just end the way they do, end on that split it into two films, because when you leave the theater or when you turn it off if you're watching at home, as soon as you finish that Defying Gravity number, it just completely blows you away from everything. Because I talked about that number is so good because everything is coming together. The acting from Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, the music, obviously the song, the score that's kind of playing in between, the production design is great, the cinematography, it's one of the best shot scenes of the film, the visual effects as she's flying around and everyone's kind of attacking her, everything comes together in that one scene, and it is like a 10-15 minute musical number that is just from start to finish. If you're watching that, that is what really captures how great Wicked is, and that one scene really is the highlight of it all, and it really is led by that performance from Cynthia Erivo. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting Cynthia Erivo in fourth, and for my prediction, I'm putting her in fourth. The next nominee is Karla Sofia Gascon from Emilia, Perez. This is Karla Sofia Gascon's first Oscar nomination. She made history as the first openly transgender actress to be nominated for an Academy Award. Karla Sofia Gascon was nominated at the BAFTAs, the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Golden Globes. Now, like I've done with a lot of the Emilia Perez categories, and especially the ones that are kind of revolving around more specifically Karla Sofia Gascon, we do have to start with the disclaimer, and we do have to start with the overall discussion that's going on around Karla Sofia Gascon. Obviously, if you're unaware, a couple weeks ago, after voting, like a week or so after voting, it was uncovered that she had a long history of insensitive and bigoted and frankly just kind of disgusting tweets that she had. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of people are kind of giving her, trying to give, the pass that you give to these people of, oh, like they were a kid, like they didn't know any better. But that's, I think, the most upsetting thing is a lot of Karla Sofia Gascon's tweets were not that long ago. A couple of them very as recently as 2020, 21, 22 even. Like there were so many recent tweets that were just very upsetting and very, again, just frankly disgusting. And so that has been a big thing, then, and a big story around her performance. In terms of her likelihood to win, do I think she had a better chance to win before that? Yeah, I do think she might have been ahead of Cynthia Erivo. She might have been ahead of a couple of the others that we're going to talk about a little bit later, because you have to remember that Karla Sofia Gascon, she made every precursor. She was there. This was an exciting nomination at the time, being the first openly transgender woman to be nominated. Like, there were so many great things about kind of the narrative for Karla Sofia Gascon, and like we've seen so far this awards season, narrative can carry you quite a bit. So I do think that it is important to remember that the narrative before everything happened was a little bit more positive and was a little bit, trending better for her. I do think that because of the tweets and everything that has come out, and I mean, even before the tweets, the way that she was kind of talking about Fernanda Torres and accusing her of attacking her and having her fans attack her. Like, there was so much going on with Sofia Gascon after the nominations, and like even leading into those tweets, that completely has, I think, kind of tanked her chances to win, and it really has tanked a lot of the excitement that her nomination did bring. Like, it's such a historic and such a great nomination. Unfortunately, unfortunately, it wasn't necessarily the best performance in the greatest of movies, but then B, everything else around it really has just kind of, I think, tainted and put a downer, I think, on the historic moment that this nomination was. But so again, putting that all to the side, now we're going to focus just on the performance. And like I did just say, it was still not the best performance. Like, it's, when you look at Emilia Perez, obviously Zoe Saldana is the universal, everyone's like, okay, she's the best, acting performance. But then even then, like, I think Adriana Paz, she has very few scenes, but I think she's pretty good. She's pretty innocent. Selena Gomez got a lot of kind of criticism before the film was really widely seen, when it was just kind of the clips. And again, as someone who doesn't speak Spanish, I can't, it's not necessarily my place to say whether I thought her Spanish was good or bad, because again, it's just not my place. But I wasn't at any point necessarily distracted or upset with her performance in the film. I thought she was serviceable. I thought she was fine. She wasn't any a standout or anything the way that Zoe Saldana was at times, but I thought she was fine. When it comes to Karla Sofia Gascon, she does have a couple moments as well. I think she's kind of in that same boat as Selena Gomez. I think they both had moments where I thought, yeah, this is fine, or this is good, and maybe they had one moment or so that was kind of a big flashy thing where I'm like, oh no, that is great acting right there, but there's still so much of it otherwise that was just not necessarily something that I would have nominated. Or I think a lot of people that, fans, or people that have YouTube channels or just Twitter accounts, the people that generally didn't like Emilia Perez, I think very few people, this is a performance that they would have nominated, because ultimately it just would, in comparison to everything else in the category, it does feel like it's a very clear fifth place to me, and again, I think to a lot of people. Again, because of the historical moment and what it meant when she got nominated, I wasn't mad at it back then. I was kind of fine with it getting, of all of the nominations Emilia Perez could have got, this was one of the ones that I was okay with. Like, it just because it was such a historic and a great nomination at the time, I was fine with it. But it really does just kind of come down to, when compared to everything else here, this performance really, to me, just doesn't stack up compared to everything else. And so I think it's pretty obvious where I'm kind of putting this performance. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting Karla Sofia Gascon in 5th, and for my prediction, I'm putting her in 5th. The next nominee is Mikey Madison in Anora. This is Mikey Madison's first Oscar nomination. She is best known for her roles in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Scream. Mikey Madison won for Best Actress at the BAFTAs and was nominated at the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Golden Globes. Now, this is when the video gets fun. We get to the three big hitters at the bottom of this, in alphabetical order, when we get to them here at the bottom of the lineup. Mikey Madison was the frontrunner, I think, coming into award season. from all the way back to when the film was it Cannes? Is that where Anora debuted? Was it Venice? I think it was Cannes, right? Yeah, quick Google search. It was Cannes where Anora first had its its debut where it premiered, and I think from then that was when the buzz really started for Mikey Madison, and that was when for me, someone who knew Mikey Madison. I was very familiar with her through her, the Scream and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm sure I've kind of seen her in the background of a couple other films here and there, but I was very kind of familiar with her as this secondary or supporting actress. At no point had I ever really kind of seen anything from her and thought like she needs to be the lead in a film, and then not only does she need to be the, I guess I could say she is charismatic and she was charming in both those films enough to where like you could see her being a lead, but at no point did I think if she got the lead in a film would it instantly make her like a front runner for best actress. And that really is what happened, because again, Mikey Madison has been the front runner for so long in this category. Really, she was the front runner until awards season started, and then all of a sudden she started not winning at any of the precursors, and she was constantly kind of losing, and Anora was underperforming, and we all kind of started second guessing of like, oh, maybe this isn't necessarily a thing that's happening. Maybe she's not coming along with this, with the film. Maybe this wasn't really what we all thought it was going to be. Then she wins at BAFTA, and she has since won. I think it was the Independent Film Awards? I think was like last night. And she won there, so she's gotten a couple wins under her belt. Anora started picking up the steam, started winning WGA, PGA, DGA, ensemble or casting at BAFTA. Like it started kind of getting some other things, and then plus her specific BAFTA win. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, it just felt like the tides had turned back in Mikey Madison's favor for Anora. And for a good reason. She is phenomenal in Anora. For someone who, the first time I watched Anora, I didn't like it as much as I liked it a lot more on a second viewing. But the first time, I thought it was an okay film, but it wasn't necessarily something that I was like over the moon about. But even then, I was still over the moon about Mikey Madison. She was so phenomenal the way she carries that film. She gives these two, well, I guess I don't even necessarily want to say it's like two drastic performances, but she gives a very singular focused performance of being this character that is so out there and confident and has this way about her, the way she carries herself. She very much has kind of a vibe and an energy that she's bringing to the film, right? That is incredible. But then she also has a lot of it, especially in the second half, when the film kind of takes a different turn after the events of what kind of happens at the middle of the film. The entire second half, she then now has these more kind of quieter or reserved or somber moments, but then she still gets to kind of have a couple scenes here and there where she gets to get a dig in someone or gets to kind of chew someone out or say something kind of sassy. She still kind of gets some of these lines here and there, specifically a lot of the scenes and a lot of the dialogue that she's having with Yura Borisov's character. So she does this excellent job of just kind of being this the energy and just everything she brings to this role. Like, she is what makes this film work, because this film is out there and it required a lead that was willing to just go there, but also was willing to just keep this energy up for 2 hours and 20-ish minutes, I think is about how long Anora is, to be able to just to continue to bring that energy and to bring that commitment to this role is something very impressive. And that's something we're going to talk about, pretty much all three of these powerhouse performances that are finishing this list, is their commitment to the role is the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway. And that was the thing for me, as someone who didn't love Anora on first watch, I still absolutely loved Mikey Madison. I still loved everything she brought to the role. And on a second watch, now that I'm liking the film a little bit more, I still have that love for Mikey Madison, for how phenomenal and just how brilliant she really was in this film. And so for my personal ranking, I'm putting Mikey Madison in first, and for my prediction, I am abstaining for a moment. The next nominee is Demi Moore in The Substance. This is Demi Moore's first Oscar nomination. She is known for her roles in A Few Good Men, Ghost, and G.I. Jane. Demi Moore won for Best Actress at the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, and the Golden Globes. She was also nominated at the BAFTAs. Now, this may potentially shock you a little bit, if you've seen any of my videos on my channel, you know how much I love The Substance. You know it's my favorite of all the Best Picture nominees. It's like my second favorite film of the year, so I am a big fan of The Substance, and I think you maybe think that that just immediately came along with me also loving Demi Moore and her performance, which I do. Again, don't get me wrong, don't get what I'm about to say or anything that is coming up here in the next little bit. Don't get it twisted, because there are three powerhouse performances here. So Demi Moore is a powerhouse performance. It is a phenomenal performance. And again, like I said with in the Mikey Madison category, the thing I'm going to say here again for Demi Moore is the commitment. That is 100% is the thing that makes not only her performance go, but the film go as well. Because I mean, we look at I guess technically it's every single one. It's 5 for 5. All five of these films, all five of the best actress performances, they are also like they are the lead in their film. Like it's not like there's a male lead and they're just kind of the the secondary female lead, or like they are the leads. These are what they are, all the main characters. They are what is making their films go. So it is 5 for 5. But Demi Moore, I think, almost in a way that some of the others don't. So much of it is the film would not have worked without Demi Moore and without her commitment. Even if you got another great actress in there, I don't know if, again, it's just so much the commitment to the absurdity and the just asinine script, really to be able to just see this story that goes completely haywire. It is so out there. It is so surreal. Like, it is just something that it just doesn't seem like would have been made. And then now that it was made, you'd think like, okay, here's the vibe, or here's like the genre, or here's where we're kind of putting this as some like absurdist comedy that was going to be this cult classic or something that wasn't going to get as much mainstream success as it did. And then all of a sudden it did kind of get that. It did pretty well at the box office for I think what people were considering it. And then all of a sudden it got carried into the Academy, or into the Oscar precursor in like the awards season race. And so much of that is because of Demi Moore. She single-handedly, I think, is what propelled, again, no disrespect to Coralie Farjah, obviously it's her direction and her script that really is what works for me, but I think it's Demi Moore's performance and her commitment to the role is what has propelled it to this like next level, and has really kind of garnered all of this award success and passion for the film. And Demi Moore, I think more so than some of the other actresses in this category, I'd say more so than any other actress here, has a very distinct path that her character is going on in the film. And you can see her deteriorating, and you can see her the different phases and stages she gets to. And then, of course, a lot of the acting that is great is kind of the final 30-ish minutes or so, when you learn about what her role is in terms of like what she was still doing. Both her and Margaret Qualley, they're both very involved in kind of the end of the film. So again, I don't want to say anything because I want you to, if you want to see The Substance, it's kind of a warning I have to put out there that I'm not saying you have to go see The Substance. It's if you want to see The Substance, if you're okay with body horror, if you are wanting to see it, I don't want to spoil anything because you got to go in as blind as possible to really fully experience the end of this film. But what she is doing in the end of the film is phenomenal, and it is, I think, like a big part of like what is getting her awards recognition and buzz. But it really is, it's her performance even before that, because so much of The Substance is this kind of feminist story about aging, and specifically women aging in Hollywood, and the idea of what does it mean when you turn 50? Like, is this a death nail? Is this the end of your career? Are you no longer marketable? Are you no longer sexy? Are you no longer, there's just so much kind of the discussion of just like how your age plays into kind of the perception of you in terms of like how people view you, and like, does it matter, and should you give any consideration to that? Obviously no, you shouldn't. But there's so much about this film that I think if you just didn't even make it a body horror film, it still would have been a meaty enough role for an actress, someone, a little bit older. And again, not even that Demi Moore is old, right? Like, it's just she is older and she's aging as this for this character in this role. So I think there is enough there for that performance alone, especially the big scene. And it's the scene that a lot of people kind of were highlighting and saying that was one of the scariest scenes of the film for them, is her bathroom scene. And it's the one where you see the pictures that I'm using in all of my Substance videos. Like, it is the most iconic. Those are the pictures that I think are being shared the most, mostly because a lot of the other pictures of Demi Moore you can't really share. Those are some of the best photos that you can share of her in a scene that is very impactful and very memorable. That whole bathroom scene is just phenomenal acting. She does an excellent job there as the film, and again, like I said, her character specifically is kind of deteriorating and kind of losing it as the film is going on. So you get to this, like, the second act where she is just kind of not quite all there anymore and is just kind of becoming this different person, and she's becoming more comedic in her performance. She's getting a little more goofier, putting on kind of a little fake voice that she does in one particular scene while she's baking, if you know what scene I'm talking about. She does all of these different things that I think just is such great acting, and it is 100% one of, like, if she wins the Oscar, it's going to be a great Oscar win, especially because for an Oscar win in a horror film, like, it's just so rare. But she does just an excellent job with this film. And I think it just, because, like I said, because of my love for the substance, I think you may be kind of surprised by what's about to come here. And so the big surprise, I am putting Demi Moore in third for my personal ranking. And again, for my prediction, I am abstaining again till the end of this video. And the final nominee is Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. This is Fernanda Torres' first Oscar nomination. She is the second Brazilian to be nominated for an acting Oscar, following her mother, Fernanda Montenegro, who was nominated in 1999 for Central Station. The only precursor to nominate Fernanda Torres was the Golden Globe, which she won for Best Actress Drama. And now we get to the third and final powerhouse performance here, and this is, I think, this is the performance that is, like, the powerhouse performance in terms of, like, the ability, like, every second she is on screen, the film is elevated specifically through her performance. Fernanda Torres is very stoic and very confident and just very, like, she commands your attention when she's on the screen in this film. And again, I think it's just going, because of, what initially, before I saw I'm Still Here for the first time, so much of what I knew about the film was solely just based off of what people, specifically people in Brazil, were saying about the film and the way that they were treating this film and the way that they were, championing this film. And so again, just because of the way that they all were talking about it, I think the best example is, I think I can compare it the most to, like, Andrea Riseborough in To Leslie, was that the name of her film a couple years ago, where it was a performance where, for someone like me, because the film had not released in the United States last year, and so it just was not a film that was really on my radar until the Golden Globes really was kind of the first time it became on my radar. And so the only kind of comparison I had to that, of seeing someone from a film not on my radar all of a sudden now getting in and getting success and winning precursors, winning the Golden Globe, the only thing I could really, like, compare it to was just kind of the grassroots movement of, like, Andrea Riseborough. So I think in my head I kind of was just kind of connecting it to being like, oh, it's an Andrea Riseborough thing. It's a performance that she's just acting so much and so loud and yelling and doing this, and it is, like, the most acting that, like, you'll see that performance, you're like, oh, obviously we got to give it an award. Like, she is doing so much. And so I kind of just went into I'm Still Here thinking that that's what Fernanda Torres was going to be. And I was just blown away by the fact that it's not that. She does have a couple moments where she kind of, maybe yells or raises her voice, but it's almost completely the opposite, where it is very much a performance where you're seeing Fernanda Torres, she is playing this woman who is going through something just that you can't wrap especially, a lot of us in America can't wrap our minds around, like, what is happening to her and to her country, and then specifically just to her family. She is going through so much, and as the film is going on, more and more is kind of either happening to her or is being revealed to her. She's understanding kind of the situation a little bit more, and the entire time, as she is having to process all of this, she's having to, like, process it eternally, because she doesn't want to open up, and she doesn't want to burden her family and her kids, or all of her kids, especially the youngest three. She's a little more open, I think, with the older two, but the younger three, she's very trying to shelter them and keep them in the dark, and doesn't want them to worry or doesn't want them to feel that burden. Like, she's trying to take on this entire burden for her entire family. And so that is what is making her performance so great, is the idea of everything that's happening to her easily could have been a thing where, if this happens to you in real life, like, you could be a mess, you could be bawling and breaking down in tears, and your life could, spiral, and you could get in, lose control, and there's so much, like, awful things that could happen to you, that could have been a thing that, you're having to act that all out. But instead it's the opposite, where she is still such a strong character, first and foremost as a mother to her kids, and she's willing to, in this situation, as awful and as dark as it's getting for her, is able to kind of just keep it to herself, protect and shelter her kids, and just keep moving forward with life and doing what she can to try and move forward in the situation. And so it really is, her performance is something that is like so beautiful in the sense of it is a performance that you are just almost like awestruck as you're watching the film. You are completely blown away by the way that she is able to capture and convey those emotions while also still being so reserved, so quiet, and still just kind of trying to be act as if nothing is wrong for her kids. It's such a layered and a nuanced performance that I'm so happy that I was able to see this. I'm so happy that it got this recognition, that it got here at the Oscars, because it really was a performance that I just didn't know much about it going in, and so I kind of was like in my own head trying to just piece together what the performance would be. I was just so blown away by Fernanda Torres in this film. What it ended up being was just so much better and so much more beautiful than I thought it was going to be. So for my personal ranking, I'm putting Fernanda Torres in second, and for my prediction, I am putting her in third, but I do want to point out that I do think she still has a chance to win. It will be a very big, surprising upset win. So, but I'm just putting her in third, but I'm just not completely ruling her out yet. There is like a 2% to 5% chance at like a real shock come Oscar Sunday. And then before we wrap this video up, we do have to go back to this Demi Moore versus Mikey Madison debate. It is the reason I pushed this video till after the SAG Awards, because I needed the SAG to kind of clarify things for me. And unfortunately, I just don't think it did. I don't think it clarified enough for me. Part of the reason that I'm doing it this way, I'll let you know. I mean, the main reason is because I genuinely I don't know. I still to this second do not know which way I'm going. It has been back and forth for me. The other reason is because before I record the video, I make a lot of the graphics and have everything kind of ready to go. When I was making my graphics of my personal prediction, I was second guessing where I was putting them, and so I actually just kind of skipped it because I was like, I don't want to ruin the graphic by not by putting Mikey Madison first or Demi Moore first and then flipping my mind or changing my mind in the video. So that's kind of what this section is I'm for the next couple minutes just going to talk this out, try and come up with some sort of thing. And again, another reminder, this is not a definitive, a final thing. This is very much still in flux. This is just kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. My final predictions video is going to come out on Saturday, the day before the Oscars. Even that isn't even a final a final prediction, probably because I'm sure I might flip something on Sunday, but at least that's going to be more finalized than this. So the things that I kind of I'm discussing here and what I'm weighing so heavily between Mikey Madison and between Demi Moore is, I think for me, the two most important precursors for acting has always been BAFTA and SAG. BAFTA being, kind of the British Academy for their kind of, they have a very good track record of predicting actors. They have a very good track record because I don't know how much it is, but I think there's a little bit of an overlap, and there typically is just kind of they have a very good sense of kind of the same idea or the same mindset as where the Oscars heads are at. SAG obviously is very important because it's the Actors Guild. It is the actors voting, and they make up such a large voting body of the Academy Awards, and so they do have a very big kind of sway. So those are the two that are the most important precursors to me, and them splitting makes it so hard. I was kind of leaning Mikey Madison. And the thing is, what I'm going to say here, I was leaning Mikey Madison before the SAG, and even if I had the idea that Demi Moore might win SAG, I was in my head saying, I'm not going to let that affect me. I would still predict Mikey Madison. But then after it happened, it's still so hard looking at it saying, am I really going to predict Mikey Madison with just BAFTA over Demi Moore, who has Golden Globe, SAG, and Critics' Choice? Like, she's got 3 precursors. She's given multiple speeches. She's been excellent in all of her speeches. And so it's such a hard decision. And ultimately, the last thing that I'm going to kind of say before I finally at least give you something, I'm going to say that part of the reason I was leaning Mikey Madison is because I thought Anora was winning picture. And I think there is kind of there's something to be said for if you're in a debate between two actresses or any actors, if it's a complete toss up to you, the safer bet is probably to lean towards the one that is in the film that's closer to winning Best Picture. So even if Anora doesn't win Best Picture at this point, which I don't know if I still think it is, but who knows, there is no denying that it is still the one that is closer to Best Picture than The Substance is. So that's one thing that I'm like, that is something that is pulling me to Mikey Madison, where I'm saying, like, yes, I'm going to go with Mikey Madison. But then there is such a strong correlation between makeup and an acting category. I would have to look this up, and this is something I'm going to do before my final predictions video on Saturday. I'm going to look up like the list of all the previous makeup winners. So, like Oppenheimer won makeup last year, right? And then The Whale won for makeup, and that got Brendan Fraser. Obviously, Oppenheimer got Robert Downey Jr. and Cillian Murphy. But I feel like there is just such a strong correlation with whatever film wins makeup typically gets an acting award with it. Like that is part of like what you're awarding great makeup is because there was an acting performance that was like so good, and the makeup kind of helped pull that with it. And so it's one of those things where typically I feel like the makeup winner goes hand in hand with an acting winner. And this year, The Substance is, I think, the no doubt winner in makeup. And so that's one of the things that is just making me go Demi Moore. And so this is so tough. This is such a toss up between the two. And like, I'm going to flip 10 times back and forth before the ceremony on Sunday. With that said, I do want to wrap this video up. I don't want this to be another hour of me just kind of going back and forth and sharing my thoughts. But just to let you know, this is not final. And I'm going to talk about this category at length on my Saturday video where we talk about the Oscar nominations. I will say what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to put Mikey Madison in first and Demi Moore in second. And part of the reason for doing that is because I mentioned in yesterday's SAG reaction video that I'm in a group chat with a lot of people that talk about the Oscars, and they put a poll in there of who's going to win Best Actress now, and there's 6 of us in this group. 5 people voted for Demi Moore. I was the one that voted for Mikey Madison, and I think the race is closer than that. And so I think ultimately what I'm doing here, why I'm still putting Mikey Madison in first right now, is because I do think there is a lot of kind of recency bias, and there is a lot of people that are, after last night, saying, oh, it's done, it's over, it's going to be Demi Moore. And so I just want to be one more voice on YouTube, if you happen to be watching a lot of different people, to just give you a little bit of a pause, to say, like, I still might go Demi Moore by Saturday, but for now, I'm keeping it Mikey because I want you to just understand that it is still a very close race. And just because everything, the signs maybe are currently pointing towards Demi Moore, there is still the discussion and there is still the Mikey Madison factor of it. So again, this isn't my final prediction. I probably will flip maybe by Saturday. I mean, I definitely will flip at some point, and then I'll probably flip back 8 times in a row, But I just want it for now on the record that I still am putting some faith in Mikey Madison by predicting her as of right now, still as my front runner, because I just want there to still be the conversation. I don't want us to all just jump ship to Demi Moore and then we're all going to act so surprised if Mikey Madison wins, So it's like there needs to be a good, at least for this last week up until Saturday, we still need to kind of keep level-headed, and so that's why for right now I'm sticking with Mikey Madison as my predicted winner, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought of this category, if there was any snubs or anyone that you thought that should have been in this category that ultimately didn't. And also just let me know what you think, who's going to win. Is it Mikey? Is it Demi? Is it Fernanda in a big upset win, which would just, it would be awesome. I would be happy with any 3 of those winning. They all deserve it. I would be happy with Cynthia Erivo winning too. Like, I don't think she is. She's, like I said, she is in 4th place, but it's like one of the best 4th places we've ever had, and I think she maybe has another moment next year with Wicked for Good. But let me know all of that down below in the comments, and also if you would like to like this video and then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes in the category breakdown series, I would greatly appreciate it, and have a great day.